Hello viewers, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to use the VBA debugger. If you're a VBA developer or like to dabble in macros every so often, in my opinion, knowing how to use it is a must-have skill. Now don't worry, it's relatively simple to learn and easy to use. Now most people associate the debugger with troubleshooting issues that occur during testing or once the tool has gone live. However, it can offer more than that. If you can use the debugger throughout the course of your macros development, it can help you validate your code as you're building it and iron out any issues early on. So by the time you come to testing, you can be confident that you've delivered a robust tool to the user. Let's head over to the VBA editor. Press Alt F11. And now head up to the debug menu up the top here. And you'll see 12 actions. Now out of these, I typically only use 7, and they're the ones we're going to focus on today. And for the purpose of this video, wherever you see WS source, it's the same as if you typed in worksheets sheet 1, and WS dest is sheet 2. Now this is the code name of a worksheet. If you're not familiar with it, please check out my How to Reference Worksheets video. So the first item we're going to look at is compile VBA project. So VBA is an interpreted language, meaning that it translates the code line by line as it executes it. Now the thing with that is you may have some compile or syntax errors which won't show up until it actually executes that particular line of code. And that can be an issue. So I'll just show you in this example. So this subroutine here pops up a input box to the user where they can enter a 1 or a 2. And depending on which one they enter, it'll run one subroutine or the other. Now one of them doesn't have errors and the other one does. Now they look fairly similar. They just pop up a message box. Okay, now I'm not going to show you what the error is yet. Perhaps you've worked it out already. Okay, so now we're going to test. Press F5. And we're going to enter a value of 1. So it runs the first subroutine and we get the expected message, hello world. All good. We're going to run it again, F5. Now this time I'm going to enter a number that's not 1 or 2. So 4. And I get the expected message, which is number not valid. So quite happy with that. I'm going to hand over to the user to test. And for them, I've provided a button that they can click from Excel. So they run and they'll select 1 as their first run. Okay. They get the correct message. Then they run it again. But this time, they enter 2. And they get a compile error. Now, because we didn't run that particular part of the code, we didn't notice that there was an issue. So they contact us, and we go and have a look, and you can see it's just a typo, and you feel a little embarrassed. So I'm just going to fix it and run it. All right, now how could we avoid that? Well, pretty simple. Click on Debug and Compile VBA Project. There you go. As you can see, it's picked up that error right then and there. So I highly recommend you do this before you hand over to the user. And in fact, you should do this regularly as you're going through and building your macro. All right, so I'm going to comment this code out as we no longer need it. And uncomment this code here. So the next items on the list, I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. And then as we do some examples, see how you can use them in troubleshooting. So the first one is step into. and its shortcut is F8. And over time, you'll come to use the shortcut rather than the menu. Right, so F8, the step into, that just lets you execute the code line by line. And as you're doing that, you can look at values of variables. You can look at Excel and see the current state. You can change values of variables and even of Excel cells. So it's quite powerful. So F8 just steps through the code line by line. As we come to this subroutine here, if I press F8, it will go into that subroutine and we can do that line by line. So for a bit of information, what this subroutine is doing, it just calls the copy source data, which will copy two ranges from the source sheet, paste them into the destination, and then it returns true into a variable. And then once we've got that, we check if it was copied, we show one message, otherwise it shows another. So we're going to step into the subroutine. So F8, and we're inside that subroutine. F8 again, copy, F8 again, paste, and so on. Okay, so we can step through this line by line, and we return true into this variable. Okay, even though it's a different name, because I've got this by ref, it's going to return that value to this one here. Right, so again, so now we see it's the source copied value is now true when initially it was false. All right, and again, I can press F8 to step through it, and there's the copy complete. Or I could just press F5 to run to the end. So the next one is the step over, which is Shift F8. So step over pretty much lets you execute a whole subroutine or a function in one go. So step F8 first to start it. Now, rather than going into this subroutine, I'm going to do Shift F8, and it just runs that entire subroutine and comes back. All right, and then we can either do F8 or F5 to finish it. Next one on the list is the step out. The step out is Control Shift F8. So what that does is if you're stepping through code, you're inside a subroutine, you don't want to check anymore, you Control Shift F8 will just execute the rest of the subroutine and stop on this subsequent line here. So again, F8 to start, step into there. Let's do the first copy paste, and now we don't want to bother stepping through the rest. Control Shift 8 will run the rest of the subroutine and stop, pause here. Okay, and then again we can F8 or F5 to run the whole thing. The next one on the menu is Run to Cursor. I rarely use that. I use the toggle breakpoint, which I'll come to in a moment. Add Watch I rarely use. Edit Watch and Quick Watch as well. They can be useful, but in most cases you don't really need them. So toggle breakpoint is the next one that I use quite a lot, and that's F9. So toggle breakpoint pretty much lets you set breakpoints. So if you click in this margin here, or click on a line and press F9 to toggle it on and off. And what that does is you can make it run to a particular point and it will stop wherever it hits a breakpoint. So I can put one here, hit F5, it will run this entire thing and it will stop here. You can also put breakpoints inside your code. So we could do this. So if I run F5 from here, it will run, go into copy source data and stop at that breakpoint. So let's do it, F5. You can see it stops here. And now you can choose whether to step or step out or continue to run. So if I do F5 now, it will run the rest of this subroutine. And because I've got a breakpoint here, it's going to stop there. F5 and it stops there. So pretty simple to use. The next one is clear all breakpoints, Control Shift F9. Okay, so if you've got lots of breakpoints throughout your code, you just click on that and it clears them for you. And the final one is this set next statement, Control F9, and this one's quite useful as well. All right, so what that does, it lets you change where the execution statement will be next. So if we're running our code, so we're going to step into here, and we can step into our code, and let's say I want to go back to here and run this again because I need to change something. Right, so you can do this, and I'll show you that in detail in a moment. So you can drag that little handle up, and then it doesn't undo what it's already done. It just puts the execution point back to here, and then you can run it again. So you can do F8 again. All right, and the other way you can do it is click on a row, hold Control, press F9. All right, you can even go forward. Let's say you wanted to skip this copy while you're testing or while you're troubleshooting. You can just drag it down to here, and it will skip this part. Right, it doesn't run it, it just skips it. Again, I could have just I'll come back up to here. I could just click on that row, Control F9, and then I can choose to continue. So in this case, it hasn't done that copy. All right, so now that I've done that, we're going to go through some examples. So to start, I'll just come and clear any data that I've copied in my destination. Let's go and mess up the worksheet for a little bit. So let's say the user has come in here and inserted a row because they want to see the date. All right, but they haven't mentioned this to you. They just go and do it themselves. All right, and then they have some more data here. All right, SA and click, and they've got some more data, and then they run the copy routine. Okay, and they look at the output. We don't have the extra data. We've also got this number, which is actually the date. Excel stores the date as a number. It's not formatted as a date cell, so it's showing you the actual underlying number. So they contact you to try and troubleshoot what is going on. Okay, so what we do, we know the issue is somewhere with a copy and paste. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to run F5, and we've stopped at the copy. All right, so what I can do now is press F8. So all I've done is the copy. If we Alt Tab to Excel, we can look and see the ants, and you can see what it's copied. So our code expects the data to be here, but the users pushed the header row down and added more data. Okay, so that's one issue. We can change our code. So we want to start at B4 and go down to B16. B4 to B16, all right? Now I've already executed that copy, so what I can do is click on here, and remember to set this next statement, can do Control F9 and take it back to here. Again, F8 to run it. Now let's have a look at Excel. You can see it's now copied the data correctly. And now we're going to paste it. So before I paste it, just let me clear this data so we know exactly what we've pasted in here. Now one thing you might have noticed, when I did that, it's lost the ants around the range that we wanted to copy. So what I need to do is come back up here and Control F9, otherwise we'll get an error. So F8, copy it again, and just to confirm, have a look at Excel, yes. And now we want to paste it into B3 of the destination. All right, so let's have a look at the destination sheet. And now we have our employee ID in the right spot, and we have all our employee IDs. So that's worked well. And now we're going to do the state. So D3 to D13, and that's going to be the same issue. So if we go over to here, you can see we've copied the actual date up here. And we're only copying down to row 13. So we need to come back here and fix this up. We got to change that to 4 and 16. And again, let's set this back, move it back. We're going to use the handle this time. There's no difference. And then F8. Go back, and you can see the ants are around. I'll just move away so you can see the ants are around the correct range. So we have our copy, and we can do our paste. Let's have a look at Excel, and you can see it's pasted the correct data. We get rid of the ants with this statement here. Again, go back to here, you can see the ants have gone, and we're going to set data copied equal to true. And then we're coming back outside of that subroutine into the main one. If source was copied, which it was, we're going to show the copy complete. We can get rid of this breakpoint by pressing F9. As a side note, I normally don't hard code ranges and cell references for various reasons. I talk about this in my 2 videos on how to reference ranges. If you haven't checked them out, I invite you to do so. But for the benefit of those who haven't seen those videos, I've decided to just use this basic syntax, which is a common way of referencing cells and ranges. Okay, so let's have a look at what else we can do with the debugger that is useful. All right, so let's go back into our F8. We're just going to step here, and let's say we do a shift F8. We're going to step over that. All right, source copied is true, so we can have a look. You can just hover over variables and see their values. Right? If it's an object like a complete range, it won't show you the value because it's more than one cell, but this is just one value. You can see that. All right, now what if we wanted to test these 2 different conditions? So let's go back to the copy source data, Control F9. We're going to step into here, and we're going to F8, 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 get rid of the ants. And now here we've got data copied equals true. And as you've seen, while you're in the debug mode, you can change values, all right? So I could set false, and I could use this to test what would happen on the false condition up here. The problem with this is persistent, if you do save your workbook, that is. So you'd have to come back and remember to change it to true. The other thing you can do instead is if you press Control G, it opens this, it comes to this immediate window down the bottom, or you click on View and Immediate window up the top, right? Once you're in here, you can interrogate variables and various objects, properties on various objects, and also change them. So we, instead of changing this to false here, we can temporarily change it down here. So this is not persistent. So we type that in or paste it in, hit enter, and now data copied is false. All right, so if I run it now, you can see it is, you can see the value is false. If I run it now, it is true again. All right, but I wanted it to be false because I want to test my if condition. So I'm going to set it back to false. So we come out of here. If source copied, no, it wasn't because we changed it. And then that way I get my copy failed message, and it's tested that scenario. Right. And now if I were to run it again, you can see source copied is true because we didn't change the original statement. Now you can do interrogate a lot more things here. For example, when you want to change a value, you just do something like that. If you want to see what current value it is, you can do a question mark or a print. Data copied, hit enter, it's false at the moment because we haven't changed it to true. We can also do things like print WS source. Let's say, is that sheet 1 or sheet 2? I can't remember. So WS source dot name, all right? And you can see that it's sheet 1. So again, this is quite useful that we can look at things as we're stepping through code, either troubleshooting or as we're developing our code. And we can see that we're using the correct worksheet in our copy. And we can do the same, let's say, for our destination. All right, so we know it is the correct source and destination sheet we want to use. All right. So there are some useful things that you can do within the debugger. There's lots of other things that you can do with ranges as well, so different objects. For example, you might say WS source range, and you can see the value of just B4, dot value. All right, so that's the header. Okay, for example, we can do things like this, end, and do an Excel, let's go down, all right? And so what this does is it goes from B4, so from B4 all the way down until it hits a blank. So it'll give us that whole range here. And then we can, with that, what we can do is dot address. And this will tell us what that range is, just to confirm that it's B4 down to B16. And there you go, you can see that here. So it's quite useful. And as I said, as you go along, you learn, you get to learn about objects and different properties, methods that you can use. So there you have it. There's the debugger. It's, as I mentioned, it's fairly easy to learn and simple to use. Just got to get in there and practice. Just with your code as you're developing, helps you eliminate errors as you're going along. And as I mentioned, you can see what's happening as you're stepping through it line by line, and you can adjust as needed. Well, thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next video.